Now that we're well within the reaches of the fall season, temperatures are starting to cool, fall aromas are wafting through the air, and everything starts to feel a tad more nostalgic. We're right at the cusp of that time of year that's perfect for some retrospection, and at least for me, that comes with reevaluating my bucket list of things I wanted to do this year and see what I still have it in me to do. I'm nowhere near out of the woods yet, though, and with a few more of these episodes to crank out before starting fresh in 2026, my hands are more than full raking through piles of leaves and piles of slop all the same. For leaves, I've got my trusted rake, and for slop, I've got the random anime generator. Whether my evening is going to be ruined or not is entirely up to it, as I have to sit through 3 episodes of whatever it decides is in my future. You ever jump into a pile of leaves as a kid just to find it full of very pointy sticks? Yeah, it's like that, but with anime and bruised egos instead of bruised rear ends. It's a little bit safer. I saw someone postulate online once that we've already told every story that there is to be told, and no, I don't think I quite agree with that. I mean, I think we all overestimate just how unique our mostly meaningless lives actually are, but I still believe there's a ton of human experience and emotions that we haven't quite tapped into yet, at least in anime. Even in existing genres, there's still plenty of room to innovate on established concepts and remind us why we fell in love with these genres in the first place. It's less linear progress and more a cycle that needs to be spun every few years to get the point across. Skate Leading Stars is a 2021 original sports anime produced by JC Staff. Yeah, that JC Staff. Our story follows high schooler Kensei Mashima, a former skating prodigy who left the scene after realizing he'd never beat his one-way rival, Ryo Shimazaki. Now in high school, Kensei leads a mostly normal life, though secretly kink above his urge to return to the rink one day. But this eventually materializes in a run-in with Ryo's half-brother, Hayato Sasagai, who recruits Kensei to join his high school skate leading team so they can beat Ryo and get their revenge. Sports anime are one of those genres that either translate really well or really poorly to animation, and luckily, since Skate Leading Stars isn't tied down to a source material, it mostly falls into the former camp. There's a lot of really neat cuts of skaters throughout the series, and that flexibility allows the show to really shine during its performances and not drive itself crazy with too much forced dialogue. The main duo's motivation is intriguing enough to grab one's attention, further taking that solid production and leveraging it to make every beat hit just a tad harder. It's a solidly fun first 3 episodes that doesn't really overstay its welcome. That being said, Skate Leading Stars is not exactly novel. Like so many other shows I've talked about on this series, while it does come in with a strong hook and pitch, the actual bones beneath that don't inspire too much confidence. The plot progression is pretty basic, with the first 3 episodes focused on just having Kensei join the team, and the roster of other skaters also feeling largely reminiscent of many better, and worse, shows that I've watched over the years. Skate's large ambitions also come back to bite it in the ass, as it being only 12 episodes really makes you question if we're ever going to really get a meaningful conclusion out of all of this. Considering that the manga adaptation would start alongside it and run for a whole year after it, I don't know if I'm really holding my breath. One may even call it a bit of a slippery slope. I feel like isekai isn't actually bad enough. Don't get me wrong, I think I've made it pretty clear over the years that I don't think the genre is all that good either, but I feel like one of its key features is that it could always be worse. The constant wave of new entries, especially these days, feels more tailored to be as inoffensive as possible, which makes for both safer and more boring slop. I don't know if that's any better, since for my purposes here, I like a train wreck when it presents itself, but I can certainly see why eating gray goo might just be a little more appealing than a fatal allergen. Some people just don't like living on the edge, I guess. Skeleton Knight in Another World is a 2022 isekai anime following the adventures of a skeleton warrior named Ark. Ark is the reincarnation of a former Japanese gamer who one day gamed too much and was reborn as his avatar in the game he was playing. The one problem is that his skeletal appearance is not something that any of the humans in the world would take kindly to, so he must hide his appearance if he wants to make a living as an adventurer. Wait, is this just budget overlord? Not to reuse a metaphor, but Skeleton Knight in Another World is maybe best described as the anime equivalent of Grey Goo. It doesn't necessarily do anything painfully awful besides its over-reliance on rape as a plot point, which it puts front and center in the very first scene, but also doesn't leave a whole lot of an impression either. The animation is fine, I guess, and hey, I mean, PelleK is on the OP. Yes, that's something. It is really hard to care at all about Skeleton Knight when it doesn't even seem to do as much itself. I know I've shit on many an isekai in my day, but at least most of them have had a defining characteristic or something that was at all interesting enough that I could maybe bite into, but this is just nothing. The art has the same uninspired style and presentation of every other isekai you've already seen, the dialogue vaguely comedic in a forgettable kind of way, and the plot just has nowhere that it wants to go quick. However, by and large, the most forgettable aspect of the show is its protagonist. They really did not give a flying fuck here. Arc has no backstory behind generic isekai protagonist, to the point where we don't even see his homeworld, and his old persona is just a generic gamer dude. There's elves, magic, I think there's a cat girl somewhere, but it really is just the most forgettable blend of tropes that I've seen cross-stitched together to something vaguely reminiscent of an actual plot and characters. Like, I mean, normally I do try to find something to praise about a show, but this really is just the most paint-by-numbers entry in the genre that I've seen. It's not the worst, I'll give it that, but definitely the most forgettable, and I want nothing more to do with it. You wonder why I detest isekai so much. You know what, I changed my mind. Isekai is pretty bad. Genre saturation is an interesting case study in races to the bottom. You can compare the rise of isekai to similar genres in decades past, and it almost always tracks the same. Any concept can work if you have a strong enough grasp on the fundamentals, but if you don't, you can always supplement it by throwing in increasingly absurd gimmicks to draw in your audience regardless. Doesn't really matter how well you execute that idea, so long as it is interesting enough to get your foot in the door. Tales of Wedding Rings is a 2024 isekai adaptation produced by Staple Entertainment. They're a newer studio that's mostly specialized in making slop, including at least one series that might be familiar to long-term viewers of this channel. Oh god. Our story follows high schooler Haruto Sato. One day, when he was but a wee lad, Sato witnessed a portal open up in the forest, and out walked a young beauty by the name of Hime and her butler. Hime promises Sato that she will be his best friend forever if he keeps her secret, and like the good boy that he is, Sato does just that. Flash forward to the present, and our heroes are now in high school. Sato, having developed feelings for Hime, is ready to confess his love, only to learn that Hime is going to be moving away. For good. Not willing to let his first love go so quickly, Sato ends up following Hime, who is actually the princess of a fantasy world, back through the portal that brought her to his world. After finding the literal worst time to butt into a wedding, Sato ends up engaged to his lover and is bestowed the title of Ring King. Now, to protect the land from the forces of evil, Sato must amass a harem of princesses from across the realm who have also been blessed with sacred rings and figure out how to maintain the sanctity of his relationship with Hime throughout. Wow, that's a lot. Tales of Wedding Rings is one of those shows that is so bad that it almost circles back to being entertaining. In its defense, the concept is not the worst. Hime is kind of your typical main love interest. At the very least, the childhood friend aspect does at least give it some variety over its peers that it can capitalize on in its narrative. I can almost commend Sato's willingness to just go into everything so gung-ho. The writing likewise doesn't seem to take itself too seriously. It's kind of just an excuse to build a harem of poorly written women, but I mean, at least it knows it. That's better than some series I've seen here. The show is still really bad though. The art for one is lathered in so many sickly colors and digital effects as to be a real eyesore. The animation suffers from serious errors and bad editing all over the place. The writing doesn't hide that it's extremely trashy, but that also doesn't excuse the paper-thin characters and asinine dialogue. The whole thing is just cascade failure all the way down, but in doing so, it does manage to be somewhat entertaining as you go from episode to episode of this train wreck to see just how low it can go, and it can go pretty low. It's not good by any stretch of the imagination, but in doing so, it manages to be far more engaging and in a counterintuitive way than most of the slop I've covered here. So, maybe it's worth a shot. Season 2 is airing right as we speak. Now's a good time to catch up. Skate Leading Stars was surprising in the way that it wasn't completely terrible. The characters are maybe the biggest draw, even if the plot was a bit bland, and it just managed to skate its way to completion. The plot remains fairly cliche, but it does the thing that few series seem able to do these days and manages to have a real ending. Nothing groundbreaking, and the drama can be a little much at times, but holds itself together just enough that I didn't hate sitting through it, and honestly, that's maybe the best it could achieve. If you're looking for something to scratch your sport ball itch, this one should suffice. Skeleton Knight in Another World commits one of the most egregious crimes that a series can, and that is being so unreasonably trite. I've dealt with some pretty awful shows on this series, and while this one isn't as bad on a technical level, it sure was one of the most draining experiences I've had here. None of the characters are interesting, none of the plot beats seem to go anywhere, it's all just textbook slop that you glaze your eyes over to, and come out the other end none the wiser. Needless to say, this one was quick to the drop list, and if I never have to think about it again, it will be too soon. On the other hand, Tales of Weathering is just plain awful on so many technical levels. Somehow, though, it does rebound into being slightly entertaining with the sheer audacity on display half the time, and just how little everyone working on it seems to care. Unfortunately, though, it wasn't enough for me to confidently want to spend more time on it. The ugly art and bare-bones characters really just don't do it for me, and if I'm going to watch something half-assed, then I'm probably just going to find something more to my taste. Plenty of that out there too. With that, we reach the end of yet another video. I hope you enjoyed, and if so, remember to leave a like and comment down below your thoughts on the series discussed here today. Not gonna lie, I'm a little delirious from juggling all of these episodes at once, but hopefully my descent into madness is at least entertaining for y'all. We're fast approaching the end of the year, which means I'm going to be spending more time trying to finalize my big year-end lists, and mercifully, the light is at the end of the tunnel for me on the catch-up game, so hopefully things will calm down for me a bit going forward. Wishful thinking, I guess. If you want to see more from me, hit that subscribe button for more videos just like this one coming down the pipeline. Click over the playlist in the description to catch up on episodes in the series you might have missed, and follow me on the links down below for more takes and content from me. I've got nothing to do with my life right now, but keep up the grind. So you're not going to want to miss all of that while it lasts. Wherever you choose to go next, remember until we meet again to stay salty.